Windows, Mac, and also Linux. To download OBS, simply click on the operating system that you're using and then run through the installation process. Once you finish downloading and installing OBS, go ahead and launch the app. That'll drop you on a screen that looks like this. For those of you who are wondering, well, how am I recording this video today? Well, of course, I'm using OBS. I'm using OBS to record OBS. You can launch multiple instances of the app. It's kind of like the movie Inception. Now, right now, we simply have a black screen. How do we get started? By far, the easiest way to get going with OBS is to go up to the top menus, click on Tools, and then let's click on the Auto Configuration Wizard. This opens up the Auto Configuration Wizard, and here we have a choice to make. You need to decide what exactly you want to use OBS for. You can use it for streaming, for screen recording, or you could use it as a virtual camera. With the streaming option, if you select this, it's going to go through and have you select the service provider. So whether you're using Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and then it'll also help you identify the best bitrate. With screen recording, well, just like the name implies, you'll be able to record your screen and then you'll have a video file on your computer that you can go and edit, or you could send it to others. Lastly, there's another option for using a virtual camera. What is a virtual camera? Well, in a moment, we're going to compose a scene using OBS. With a virtual camera, you can send that scene to different video conferencing software, whether it's Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or Google Meet, or any other services, you can use a virtual camera. For this tutorial today, I'm going to optimize for recording, but just keep in mind what you see today, you can use it for streaming and you could also use it for a virtual camera. Once you make your selection, let's click on Next. Next, we have a few more questions that we need to answer. First, we need to indicate what our base resolution is, and I would select the option that matches the resolution of your display. When you click on this drop-down list, here I see Display 1. I only have one monitor, and my resolution is 2560 by 1440. I'll select this option. Next, there's a question about the frames per second that we would like to use, and we have several different options here. We could go with 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, or we could do either one but prefer either higher frames or lower frames. In general, if you're going to be recording, say, gameplay, you probably want to go with a higher frame rate. That makes it look a little bit smoother. If you're going to be recording things like your desktop or an application, you probably want to go with 30 frames per second and you'll have a little bit better resolution. So I'm going to select 30 frames per second now, but feel free to choose the value that matches what you're planning on recording. Once we make all of our selections, let's now click on Next. On the next screen, we'll see the final results of the Auto Configuration Wizard, and this shows us the various settings that it's going to put in place for our recording. And all of this looks good, so next, let's click on Apply Settings. If you want to go back and make any modifications to the settings, you can always click on Tools again and you could run through the Auto Configuration Wizard. Once again, this is by far the easiest way to get started. Alternatively, if you want to tweak the various settings, you can click on the File menu, click on Settings. Within Settings, click on Output, and then you can customize your streaming and your recording settings. If you want full control, you could also click on Output Mode and then click on Advanced, and you have full control over the settings of your streaming and your recording. Once again, using the Auto Configuration Wizard is by far the easiest way to get going. Now that we've gone through the Auto Configuration Wizard and all of our settings are in place, next we need to tell OBS what we want to record or what we want to stream. And to do that, we're going to use this real estate right here. This black rectangle area, this is referred to as the scene, and we are going to add different sources to the scene. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that this scene is called Scene, and we'll leave this name for now. However, you can also add additional scenes, you can also remove scenes, and later on we'll do that. Especially once you start getting multiple scenes, it's a good idea to rename them. First though, I want to simply get started using OBS, so let's now focus on sources and let's start adding a few simple sources. You might be wondering, what is a source? Well, let's click on the plus icon to see what types of items we can add to our scene. Here we see a list of all the different types of sources that we can add. Now, two of the ones that you'll probably most likely want to use, one of them is called display capture. What this means is, well, this is basically capturing your display or your desktop. If you're going to be playing a game, you'll likely want to click on game capture instead. This is optimized for gaming. For now though, let's click on display capture to simply capture our desktop. This opens up a prompt where we can give it a name. I'll simply leave it set to display capture. Once again, if you start adding many different sources, it helps to give it a unique name so you could identify it later on. Let's now click on OK. This opens up properties, and here I can now see my display. Down below, let's say I had multiple monitors, I can choose which display I want to focus on. I could also select whether to include my mouse cursor. Everything looks good, so I'm going to click on OK. Back on the main screen, you should see your scene start coming together. We now have the display showing up here. As a very quick aside, if you're using a laptop and you have a black screen after adding a display, go down to Windows and search for Graphic Settings, then click into Graphic Settings. Here, select Desktop App and then click on Browse. Navigate